Welcome everybody. It's Will Kern from Endless Entertainment, and by my side I also have Laura Lopez, my amazing co-host, in the background, helping with questions and everything like that. It's another amazing episode of hashtag Event Icons. Really, really exciting show that we have today. And before we jump in, first of all, if you want to, just real quick, go to your Twitter account, hop on Facebook, go to Pinterest, wherever you normally hang out on the social webs, and share hashtag event icons, either on Twitter or Facebook, and start the conversation. We're going to be taking questions via Twitter and also in the question pane of GoToWebinar throughout this entire show. And tell your friends to tune in. All you have to go is event-icons.com, and you can tune in live throughout the show. We want to get as many people in here as possible so we can have an amazing conversation. I'm seeing more and more people joining right now, and we want to get some awesome questions in here. So remember, if you've never watched this show before, this is all about you, the audience. This is not about me, the organizer, asking questions to our amazing panel. It's about you getting submit your favorite questions and what you want to know from our amazing panel today. And these guys are amazing. I just can't, I'm so excited to share them with you. So throughout the show, use on the right-hand side, there's a question pane and GoToWebinar, or use Twitter hashtag event icons, and we will pick up those questions and we will ask them straight to them. That's right. So without any further delay, I don't want to delay this anymore. We have an absolutely amazing panel in store for this week's episode. I actually have met all these guys in person, which is very rare. We were talking about it during Control-Alt-Delete yesterday, how there's so many people you've never met before, and the industry is so big, and there's people you talk to all the time, but I've had the pleasure of meeting these guys, and true rock stars. And I thank them so much because I know they're super duper busy. Literally, Paul is on the middle of a show right now. Like, we are getting these guys in the midst of literally prepping for shows right now. But this week we're talking entertainment and events, and I have our amazing guests, Nicole Bernardi. Thank you so much for joining us.
For having me.
Paul Creighton, all the way from Las Vegas.
Glad to be here.
And Anthony Bollotta from San Diego.
Hello, everyone. Great to be here.
So these guys are absolutely amazing. I actually met them through an organization called Creative Event Team, CET, formerly TeamNet. You may have heard of it. Really awesome group of people where basically they're trying to find partners all across the country to basically be able to help each other produce events no matter where you are in the country. So for example, if Paul was coming to Phoenix and he said, hey, I need an AV team, he knows he can count on Endless to be able to take care of them. And I had a bunch of meetings with these guys and grown to have some amazing friendships with them as well. We just saw Anthony, was it like a month ago in San Diego during San Diego Comic-Con.
Yes.
Me and Paul were having pizza in Chicago. So, we definitely get to see each other very, very regularly. And these guys have shared some of the coolest entertainment ideas I've ever seen at events. And for those who don't know, I used to be an entertainment guy, so like I don't get impressed very often, and these guys are super impressive for sure. So I don't want to delay, and I want to jump right on in, and so you guys can learn from them and ask your questions of them. Anything event related or entertainment related at all, these guys are could be the ones you want to ask the questions to. So let's start off with our first question. Nicole, why don't you lead us off? Tell us what got you into this amazing events industry that we are now in.
Well, ironically, I started working doing bar mitzvahs and weddings. I was a party pumper, for lack of a better word, at bar mitzvahs, and then I kind of worked at a DJ company selling bands and DJs, and moved to California and worked for a company doing circuit entertainment and Broadway style shows. And from there have moved over to doing mostly headline talent and speakers and custom creations.
Awesome. Very cool. So, it's funny that you came from the DJ industry too, because that was like my background too. It's funny, I think, like how a lot of people who go in the entertainment industry like started off doing the DJing thing. But Paul, remind me, that wasn't how you started, right? No DJing background for you?
No, I actually, the funny story is I got into the event industry to meet a girl.
No way. Okay, so tell the story. How'd you this girl story? Talk about it.
I was working in a restaurant, and this young lady walked in to get a job. I was the manager, and I liked her so much. We started talking, and it turned out that she was a singer. And I said, well, I play piano. And so in order to be able to spend time with her. Turned out one of the other people at the restaurant played bass, so I invited them all over. So we had the extra person there so that she wouldn't be uncomfortable. And so we actually started our first band that way, and and about 4 years later, I married her, and that was 40 years ago. So she got me into the business.
Awesome, awesome. And so talk a little bit about your transition from, doing the band thing to, growing into what you do now.
Well, it was a matter of timing for us. We were working in bars primarily, and that was in the mid '80s. And at that time, the business started to die down. The people weren't coming out to the bars. I like to tell the story that MTV killed the bar business, because as soon as people were able to see people like Eddie Van Halen prancing out across the stage with 1,000 lights behind them, seeing five schmucks like us on stage with no lighting, all sort of lost its appeal. So the person that managed our group invited me to come down to Florida and get a job, and it sounded good to me. And so from there, I made the transition to the other side of the business.
Awesome, awesome. Very cool, very cool. And I totally forgot. I got really excited. So we'll do it after Anthony tells his story. I want you guys to talk a little bit about what you do now, too, and like what your companies do and everything like that. So Anthony, tell us a little bit about what got you into the industry.
Well, my story isn't unlike everybody else's here. I actually was an entertainer. I studied theater at Syracuse and had every intention to go to New York. And then when college ended, I felt like I wasn't ready for New York, so I moved back to Miami and engaged with a performance company there that was doing bar mitzvahs and weddings. And this was the mid-'80s. This is where people were spending their money. The industry really wasn't an industry at that time. And these were the shows were really rough. We did them on dance floors. There was no sound or lighting, to Paul's comment, and we wore these incredibly big costumes. And that experience, it was a group called, believe it or not, Xanadu. And that experience led to an opportunity to work in the office there, to begin selling the show. And then I received an offer to come to California to produce shows for a company that really wanted to have some shows under their belt. Did that for a number of years and decided I could do it on my own, and opened Bollotta Entertainment in '94. So that was about 22 years ago. Actually, next week will be 22 years. And
awesome.
Now, thank you. I know I look like a child. Thank you for that too. I know that you're laughing with me, not at me. Thank you. Now at Bollotta, we do just about everything entertainment-wise. We produce headliners, we produce custom shows that we build and write ourselves. We work with local entertainers in the community that we book. And we now do meetings as well. We do, in fact, quite a bit of our work is in meeting production. And where we help our clients there is not so much in just providing the production, but in helping them with their messaging, helping them to what I call emotionalize their messages, if you will. And that always involves entertainment.
Cool. Awesome, awesome. So you kind of told everyone a little bit about what you're doing now. Paul, tell everyone a little bit about what your company does and what you're kind of doing now.
I work for a company called Skorman Productions. We're based in Orlando. I've been there for 31 years, and our specialty is in the special event business. We do a tremendous amount of headliner work. We are producers as well. We produce our own entertainment. We produce shows for cruise lines and for theme parks. It's a little bit of everything.
Cool. Awesome, awesome. And Nicole, tell us a little bit about what you guys do.
Sure, I work for a company called Innovative Entertainment up in the Bay Area, and we do very similar to what Paul and Anthony do in San Francisco, from headliners to Vegas.
That's fine, thank you. I live in a hospital zone. Work in a hospital zone. I apologize.
Hey, it happens. We specialize also in keynote speakers and specific talent that we create and produce as well.
Awesome, awesome. And then I'd love to hear, maybe like a recent project or like one of your favorite projects that you've worked on, just so everyone can kind of get an idea of the scale of what you work on. So Anthony talked a little about, hey, we do meetings and everything like that. Tell us a little bit about like maybe the coolest event that you've recently done and kind of what you guys did for them in like maybe a couple sentences. I know that's tough. Nicole, go ahead.
I was like, who's first? Well, I've done a couple recently that have been really great. I just did a fundraiser last weekend for the One Pulse Foundation, which was for Pulse nightclub tragedy in Orlando, and it was a sad evening, but it was special to be a part of. It was in Hollywood, and it was really just a great night where they raised money for the victims and to build a memorial at the site of the shooting. So it was a great evening, and then ironically, a weekend before that, I did a marijuana party.
Well, tell us about that.
So wait, then
marijuana party.
so what kind of entertainment did I guess? Well, it is kind of interesting on the second one, but what kind of entertainment were you doing for these? Are like more are they bands? Or are they like like dancers? Or
Yeah, for the Pulse Foundation, it was a group called Eclipse, which was a silhouette-based and dance and video-based group. This was a little bit more of a custom piece to get the message of keep dancing across. So it was really a dance piece at the end of the evening, just to get that idea of keeping that pulse alive and keep people dancing, because that's what that club is all about. So that's what we did that evening. It had some headline talent. Stevie Wonder showed up. So it was just more of a Hollywood come together, raise money.
awesome, awesome. And then Paul, tell us about a recent project and kind of what you did for it.
Oh wow, that's a hard one. Probably the most. I do a lot of traveling, so I was in Bordeaux earlier this year with Train. I've been with Olivia Newton-John in Saigon. I've been with Josh Groban in Sardinia. I mean, all of those things are memorable, but probably the thing I've had the most fun with was we did a show for a corporate client here in Las Vegas, and they wanted an over-the-top opening number. It was 4-minute number just to welcome them to Las Vegas, and they didn't want the usual. And so we put together a Welcome to Las Vegas number complete with a custom song and custom lyrics and 165 performers, of which 130 of them were Elvises. In a variety of ways, and the whole thing unfolded. It was hysterical. We had regular Elvises, we had women Elvises, we had stilt walker Elvises, we had Elvises rappelling from the ceiling, we had small people Elvises, we had part of it was describing the typical Las Vegas experience. So we had showgirls, we had people getting married, we had boxers and cirque performers, and it was just a lot of fun in a 4-minute package. And then it finished with another 100 Elvises running into the room, filling the room, and the theme was go big or go home.
Of course.
So that was a lot of fun.
Fantastic. That's awesome. 130 Elvises. Wow. Oh, wow. Okay. So, Anthony, 130 Elvises. All right. So give us an idea of what
I just can't.
He's like, I had 131.
I had 132. I have to say that the most memorable event I've done actually was a bar mitzvah, believe it or not, a very, very large bar mitzvah in which we the mother and father actually own a very large piece of property here in San Diego, and we turned it into a safari. So we brought in working wildlife, zebras, elephants, cheetahs, monkeys, and we developed a path through their own property. We rented jeeps, and we brought people on a safari. It was about a 30-minute safari. We also had hot air balloons that were part of the party. So those that didn't want to go on the safari could go up in the hot air balloon and watch the safari happening. And this ended with a really fantastic dinner. The way we started this was kind of cool because the theme was Africa. It was an African safari, if you will. We actually started with a group of African drummers. So as people were coming onto the property, they could hear in the distance these drummers to sort of set the tone. Exactly. they'd come in, and then of course those who went on the safari first had to have inoculations, so we had a nurse there giving inoculations. And they had to go through a series of checkups before they could actually get on to the safari. So of course, as a process, we bring people through, as Paul did with his Elvis. It's all about some surprises and giving people the unexpected and leading them to what we want them to see and feel, much like you do in a movie, much like you do in a Broadway show. It's all about leading them there and then letting them experience it. You leave nothing to chance when you produce something like that, like with Paul's Elvises. I mean, all of that, it sounds like it was fun and over the top, but I'm sure that every moment of that presentation, every moment of those 4 minutes was planned out to the T. Otherwise, it just doesn't happen the way you want it to.
Exactly, exactly. By the way, I hope audience, you guys are tweeting this stuff out with hashtag EventIcons because there's just like amazing words coming out of these guys' mouths right now. So be sure to be tweeting this out so everyone can spread this good gospel of amazing entertainment news. So you guys kind of talked a little about like cool entertainment ideas that you guys have obviously gotten a chance to produce. And I must say that like every time I talk to you guys, I'm just like more and more impressed every single time. And I've spent hours and hours with you guys. But taking a step back, I think you guys obviously have gotten to not only produce great ideas, but you've probably seen a lot of really, really cool ideas too as well. So can you share whether it was something that you did or not, maybe even hopefully something that you haven't done? What's the coolest entertainment idea you've ever seen at an event, and why was it the coolest? Was it, did it deliver the right message? Was it just like so crazy your mouth was hitting the ground? Tell us a little bit of the why as well. So why don't we switch it up, and Paul, I feel like you've got a really cool idea that you've seen that blew people's minds. Go ahead.
This is a hard question because it changes. It changes with the era. I remember the first time I saw the group, the Three Waiters, and it was so astonishing what they did. They were one of the first acts to take the format down from a 45 to 60-minute show to a 22-minute show. And that was so cool because they'd hit it right at the right moment, that they shortened the field, and as people's attention spans are diminishing, they nailed it. And as a result, they were at the right place at the right time, and they've done, I don't know, 14,000 shows around the country. So that was cool. I've seen things, like acts like Illuminate, one of those acts that do the LED lighting and that were really creative, and it was done by a woman who had a laptop and a physics degree, and she came up with this idea. Recently, there was a thing on YouTube where it was 100 drones. It was a German company did it. 100 drones in the middle of a field performing to the symphony. And they did a choreographed drone dance in the sky with lights and cues. It was absolutely mind-boggling.
That's beautiful.
Awesome.
It really was. It was phenomenal.
I think you bring up a great point about how it kind of shifts with eras, because now we're getting in the age where if you're not incorporating some sort of technology, it can sometimes be really hard to impress people, right? Because everyone's used to being on their smartphones and having inundated with lights and things like that. Anthony, but I know you're like, Anthony, you love old school. Like, you built a safari in this person's property. Like, awesome. And not old school in a bad way. Like, I know you just like you create really awesome, because you just go to the root of it versus like, hey, this is just flashy and nice. You say, hey, we're gonna really like. It doesn't matter about the technology; it's about the message ultimately. Tell us about the coolest event entertainment idea that you've ever seen, and why it was awesome.
Well, first of all, I'd like to give some kudos to Nicole, who's created some pretty awesome things.
Saving her best for last. Just kidding.
I know, sorry. Eclipse is one of those products that's very awesome. I think, aside from the three of us here, Doreen Collier has something called Television, which is the marrying of dance performance with video performance. and each of the performers actually carries a plasma screen. So what you're getting there is the movement on stage, which is very smart and engaging, and then the messaging on the plasmas, which can be separated. If you have 10 plasmas, you can have a different message on each. You can combine the message and make one picture with those 10 plasmas. And I feel that that product has done, is really helps to bridge the gap between technology and entertainment, and is really quite inventive and innovative. That aside, I would have to agree that technology is really where it's at today. And, you know, I love watching the Olympics just to get some ideas. And I would have to say that this year there was an awful lot of video mapping. And, you know, while those of us in the industry might feel like that's old news, there's still some very creative ways to use video mapping. And I think anybody who's listening that saw the Olympics this year, the opening ceremony, all of the projection that was done on the floor is video mapping. They've used this for Super Bowl as well. Watching Katy Perry from above, I think it was a few Super Bowls ago, and seeing animation come to life around her as she's singing live, that was spectacular to me, because, you know, in the movies we're now used to seeing the combination of live and animation, but not in a live atmosphere. And so I thought that was really awesome.
Absolutely, absolutely, I agree. And I think one of the things when you speak about the Super Bowl, it's really interesting is I think they do an impressive job also capturing it on camera, because sometimes projection mapping can look a little awkward on camera, but they did a phenomenal job, I think, capturing it too. So I definitely agree with that.
And I have to say, not to interrupt you, but I have to say, if I were in the audience watching that, I would have been impacted. And that's not necessarily true for all Super Bowls. You can get lost in the audience if you're there live, but with the video mapping, it almost seems like it was presented for the live audience, which is great. You know, that doesn't always happen. It's usually presented for the TV audience.
Exactly, exactly. I love it. I love it. All right, Nicole, save the best for last. Like I said, you're up.
Oh, geez, no pressure. Well, I think as we've all said, the technology is kind of where it's at right now. Paul has a great app called Extreme Beam, which is laser technology, where they're coordinating the beams, and they're actually choreographed to it. So it's a really neat opening experience for a general session, but it's a great act that has high energy to it. As we have a show called Eclipse where we interact with media. There's a group, I think they're on America's Got Talent right now, and I don't know their name, where it's almost like they're projecting onto the floor, so they look like they're floating in air. It's very cool. There's also a group called Freckled Sky that does something similar, where they were coming in and out of water and mapping and all kinds of things. So there's a lot of that right now. I think some of my favorite stuff still, though, that just amazes me is, I think it was in Brazil, where it's the musicians that are aerial hung almost in a tripod format. I just thought that was just really neat and unique, and we probably couldn't get away with that here in the States, but it was cool there.
Cool, very cool.
I taiko drummers from Truss.
Yeah. Did you see that, though? It was like a triangle piece. There's like 10 of them up there.
No.
It's, I'll send it to you.
Yes, I'd love to see it.
Be sure to post it in the chat down below, and
I gotta find the link first.
We'll share it in the resources on the post show. But awesome, awesome. So there's obviously a lot of choices, and as technology is expanding, choices of what to do for entertainment are getting bigger and bigger. It used to be, you know, as you guys know, everyone started small. It used to be DJs or bands, and now it's, do you want a solo artist? Do you want some technology involved? There's so many choices out there, almost a little bit of paradox of choice going on. What do you think is the best way for planners to go about choosing their entertainment? Do you have any sort of tips that you provide, saying, hey, this is the kind of route you should look? I know, Anthony, you're really big on the messaging, so you'll, that sort of stuff. You know, Paul, why don't we start with you? What are your recommendations for choosing entertainment and where to go?
Well, it starts with what the goal is.
Absolutely.
What does the client want out of the event? I have to put in a plug here about the conversation we just had. The tech, there's no question that people are focused on high tech and what's new in technology, But if you, depending on who's listening here, if that's all you take away from this, I think that would be a disservice, because technology is only a vehicle. It is not what makes it cool. It's how it's delivered. There are acts out there, and you can call them old school if you want, but they're really not. That the goal is to reach the people. I always tell entertainers and also my clients, when you're in the back of the room, watch the heads of the people in the room. If they're turned to the stage, you have them. If they're turned away from the stage, you don't. And the more often you turn the people's heads to the stage, the better job you're doing. So I've booked an entertainer by the name of Aloe Black a couple times in the last year, and Aloe would be considered old school. He's a singer. He's a songwriter. Some of you may know him from the Candyman commercial for M&M's. Some of you might know him as the singer who did the song "Wake," the Avicii hit, "Wake Me Up."
Yep.
Is that the one? He was the singer on that. This guy is a throwback to the entertainers of yesterday. I have put him in rooms that he had no business winning, but he was so charming and so engaging that he nailed it. So I just want to put in a plug for people that it's not just about technology. It's about skill. It's about how you go about reaching the audience, if that's the goal. Sometimes you're meant to just be background noise or something that just adds a little buzz to the room. But when clients call, I start with, what's your goal? Are you wanting people to dance? Are you wanting them to walk away and say, oh my God, I can't believe what I just saw? Are you looking for somebody that will draw people to your event, like a celebrity? Every job is different. So, I mean, there's a series of questions. So you asked, what can planners do? Talk to somebody that can help them walk through the possibilities. That would be my suggestion.
I'd like to add to that. In addition to goals, which I agree with Paul, it's the first question you ask, and it's the most important question. And then following that, logistics. What is the space like? Are there sight lines, clear sight lines from everywhere in the room? Are there pillars in the room? Is it a box? Is it broken up? Is your space broken up into little spaces? That affects what you book as well. If something doesn't logistically fit into the space, it's not worth considering. And my own feeling on that is, if you, to Paul's point, if somebody's turning their head away from the stage, you don't have them. If somebody can't see the stage, if one person is seated behind a pillar and you book an act that's visual, like a magician who's very visual, then you've done a disservice to the group, to the client, to the meeting, because even if one person can't see it, it's not right. And then the third thing I would say is available resources. Not everybody has unlimited budgets. Not everybody can afford to fly people in. So based on where you're going, what are the resources in that location? What can you feasibly do within your budget guidelines that'll meet your goals and objectives and your logistics and be a home run?
It's farm-to-table entertainment.
Farm-to-table. We got
it. So good, so good. Awesome points, Anthony. Thank you so much, Nicole. What are your thoughts as far as picking entertainment, choosing them? What are your thoughts?
I think a lot of it depends, like as they've said before, logistics and the goals. But I also think it's that storytelling of entertainment. Whether you're doing just a small cocktail reception or a full big gala evening or a general session opener, we're telling a story from the time the guests walk into the room to they leave. So your entertainment, your decor, your food, whatever's involved in your story, work together. Sometimes you'll see where they're trying to force a square peg in a round hole, where maybe they have a big rock band, but there's no decor to get that feeling, or there's no food to feed the guests. So it all has to work together, and it's to evenly kind of spread it out so that it's the focus. I mean, some people are going to be more entertainment driven, some more decor driven, but try to balance it so that the evening works cohesively.
Awesome. I think you guys just put together so many great points. And what's interesting is that planners, if you're out there, is that these guys are the ones who help you choose the entertainment. So, when it comes to you choosing your entertainment, they definitely are seeing the other side of things. So, um, real quick question. Well, quick thing I think for the audience is that if you have any questions at all for the audience, or for our amazing panel, I should say. Oh my gosh, I'm lost in my own words right now. Please feel free to put them in the question pane. We're going to start jumping into those any second now. So if you have questions right now, throw them in the question pane or on Twitter, hashtag EventIcons, and we want to get them to our amazing panel. A quick question from Sean, actually one of our amazing co-hosts, just jumped right on in. He had the question about what does digital mapping cost and look like? I know that you guys I've seen you all incorporate Axe with it. Can you tell us a little bit about the planning behind digital mapping when it comes to entertainment? Because, on the AV side, we're used to it like, hey, we want to make the screens look cool and everything like that. But I know, for example, Nicole, you guys have done something really, really awesome where you incorporated mapping into the Entertainment Act. Can you talk a little bit about that, Nicole, and what that took?
Sure. It really depends on the content that we're creating and how much graphics you're designing for the mapping. So, for example, the projection dress like you saw on J-Lo or Carrie Underwood, that can be relatively affordable for clients depending, again, on the content and how much media we're creating. There's another project we did where we had a hand draw. Well, I didn't hand draw, but we had an artist hand draw watercolors because they wanted Japanese, like traditional Japanese, and then they animated the watercolors from there. That was your more expensive, $40,000 mapping type of thing, where some of the digital mapping dresses are more in the $5,000 to $10,000 range. So it just really depends, and that's broad, very broad, depending on what you're doing. You can go up as high as hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Absolutely. And Anthony, I'm guessing so something for the Super Bowl, like we were talking with Katy Perry, is what would you say that would cost for someone to do that?
Oh my goodness. I'm guessing that would cost a few $100,000. And like Nicole said, the time really comes in before the event even starts. It's all that pre-planning time where you're actually creating all of that imagery. So that's a good amount of the budget is right there, just creating it all. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was millions, honestly. I couldn't give you a...
Yeah, because this space was so big.
It was so big. There were so many projectors up in that ceiling. There had to be. It was quite an undertaking.
Awesome, awesome. And I know, Paul, you definitely understand a lot of the finer technical pieces of it as well. Can you talk a little bit about your thoughts on the costs that come into production mapping?
Absolutely not. No.
Next question.
Anthony and Nicole have answered. It is so reliant on the amount of content. The only thing I'll throw in on the digital mapping and things like that is that you also have to understand that once you walk down that road, you are locked in. The beautiful side of digital mapping is it allows you to create backgrounds and experiences that are visually amazing. The downside is there's no flexibility once you're done. So at that point, you can't go back and change something on site. There's the rendering time and the amount of time it takes to put those together. So you do it and that's it, and it's beautiful, but it's not a flexible format, in my opinion, at least as far as live theater is concerned.
But to expand on that, Paul, I think too, there's ways to do video tricks where whether it's rear projection like we do with our silhouettes, or you're creating background images where maybe there could be a little bit of an interaction between the performer and the screen, but it's not mapped onto the screen. That can be tweaked and changed and edited on the fly. So there's ways to do things more affordable with a little bit of the same effect.
Yeah, wouldn't it be great if the logo could go up in the upper corner? No.
Right. Right. I think Paul's point is a very good point, because in our world of event entertainment, the only thing constant is change. And so it's a very good point. And it's not uncommon that clients will come in at the very last minute and want to change something thinking, this is a very simple, small change I'm asking for. It should be possible, right? And to have to say, no, it isn't possible is not always the most enviable place to be. Nobody ever wants to say no to a client. So it's important to point those things out at the beginning of the process. And then probably keep reminding them of that fact, because they'll forget until you actually get there. It's what we
I
do.
love it. I think it's such a great point because there's a lot of times, like on the AV side of things, that our clients say, "Oh, I'd really love to do this," and I think sometimes you become a yes man to, especially pleasing your clients. You don't want, like, we're a customer facing company. You don't want to say no because you feel like it's, oh, they're gonna like think that I'm trying to shut down my dreams. But sometimes you're doing them a disservice by saying, "Oh yeah, that's possible," and then you give them, a $500,000 AV production, and they're like, "Oh, I had like $100,000 planned
Right,
for this," and then you have to retrack and do all that work, and you're doing a disservice to your time and to them as
right.
well. So that's really,
Or,
really
or,
great
you,
point.
or you don't execute it well. And so the expectation is high and the execution is low, and that's not good for you either.
Exactly, exactly. They always say that, happiness comes from when the gap between where your expectations are and where it actually comes in. So if Anza comes up here and their expectations are down here, that entire gap is happiness.
And that's why I have very low expectations.
Tacos.
Street tacos.
Free tacos. Awesome. So we got a question here from the audience. They want to know a little bit about events that have started to incorporate entertainment the right way. So you've obviously talked about some general entertainment ideas that you think are cool, but what do you think are events that are doing entertainment really well consistently? Maybe it's a public event or maybe an event that you've seen. And then we want to know the flip side of it. What's an event, and you don't have to name their names if you don't want to, what's an event that's doing entertainment absolutely poorly? And it could be even an event that's spending millions of dollars on entertainment. They just can't figure it out. Why don't we start, Anthony? We haven't started with you on a question yet.
Ooh, on this one, you're going to start with me.
Yeah,
Perfect.
yeah. Paul and Nicole, thank God.
Hmm. An event where entertainment is done very well.
Yeah, we'll start
That
with
would
that one.
be any of Nicole's events or Paul's events, obviously.
And your events, obviously, as
And
well.
your
Of
events.
course, that goes without saying. Uh, I hate to do this, but I have to go back to televised events. I think, obviously, for the reason that we'll all be able to connect with that. I would say the Super Bowl events are fantastic for many reasons. The fact that they can get the cameras in the right places, that they can pull out these incredible set pieces in a matter of seconds and coordinate what is usually hundreds to thousands of additional extras that they choreograph. Honestly, that is always done so well. And even when the headliner misses and doesn't quite hit it, it's still an incredibly awesome creation, even with the minor things that might happen, because it takes so much time and effort to make all of those things come together. And the rehearsal for something like that. I always say people don't do what they hear, they do what they practice.
Mm-hmm.
And so it takes an awful lot of practice, repeating that practice over and over again to get people to do it the way it needs to be done. So just from that perspective alone, done right, 100%.
Awesome.
I have to say, done wrong.
We'll wait on that one for
Okay,
now. We'll do all the good ones first, then we'll do the poor ones because I think the poor ones are a lot more fun.
Yes, they are.
Why don't you tell us about an event that you think does entertainment really well consistently?
Me or Paul?
Nicole.
Oh, sorry, I missed that. Well, oh man, I don't want to use televised again, but I do think the Olympics and their opening ceremonies, I think they tell a story of the country or region that they're in. They incorporate thousands of performers or hundreds of performers depending on the show, and they do this storytelling, which for me is a big thing in events. So I think that's probably one of my bigger favorite ones, which I think a lot of corporations do as well when they're trying to launch a product or do an event to get messaging and branding out. I think they can really learn that they have the right team in place to tell that story.
Awesome, fantastic. Paul, what's another event that you think does entertainment really very, very well?
Well, they took my answers. To me, any event where the producers or the clients have actually thought about the entertainment and presented it in the way that they can be successful is a memorable event. and that's not as often as you would think it happens. But when the entertainment is the focus and the client, I mean, as simple as the point Anthony made about floral arrangements or poles in the middle of the room, or all of the little things. Where is the stage placed? Does everybody have those kinds of things? When it goes right, it's a memorable event. So that's the broad world that I like.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so now let's do the flip side. So let's do a little bit of critiquing, let's say. What's an event that is not doing entertainment well? And again, it could be someone who has lots of money and just can't seem to get it right. So Paul, why don't you just kick us off? And feel free to say that someone else's answer was wrong. That would be fun.
Yeah, or rip on each other.
Yeah, there we go. Will's events. That guy needs to get his entertainment together.
No, that's it's an impossible. I mean, all of us have done bad shows. I mean, there's no way around that. I had a show where the client had wanted this around the world with dancers, and we had put together this entire show. It was at a Disney ballroom. It was about 1,000, 1,500 people, and there was an orchestra playing through dinner, and then we were supposed to do this show. And the client was just absolutely, it has to go right from the orchestra to the show. It has to go right from the orchestra to the show. They couldn't have said it too many times. We found out when we got there, and again, I put it back on us for not asking the right question. They were all doctors, and they had been in session for about 9 hours. And then they came in to dinner. And so we went in, the orchestra was doing great, it was fine, no problem. There was a 10-second, and that is all it is, hand to God, 10-second pause between the orchestra and the start of the show. And in those 10 seconds, we lost about 1,180 of the 1,200 people. That pause, it was all it took for people to get up and leave, and once the wave started, it was over. And so, what made it bad was that we didn't know that these people had been captive for so long, and we would have found another way to do it. But ultimately, it was our mistake, and it was a horrible event. And it got better at the end because the 20 people that were staying were enjoying the show, and we got to Brazil, and the Brazilian dancers came out, and with Brazilian dancer costumes. And my picture of that event forever will be the planner running across the entirety of this empty room, screaming in the middle of the show at the top of her lungs, "Get this act off the stage." And we had sent photos. They knew what they were getting, but they must have missed it. And so I have a picture of an empty ballroom with a planner screaming, and every one of us has one or two of those events.
I do love when a client says, "Get them off the stage, stop them now," which is virtually impossible. My heart goes out to you.
I have a top 5. I mean, in 31 years, I have a top 5 list of horrible events. There's only 5, but there are a few.
Right.
I think,
And awesome for you to be so humble about it too. So thank you, Paul.
I think
Go ahead, Nicole.
I was going to say too, I think sometimes when clients get so dictating on what they want to see on stage and try to tell us, even down to choreography, sometimes what it should be or what they think it should be. I had a client that Paul helped me with last year. He dictated so much to me on the message and contenting that was the driving force that the entertainment itself wasn't very exciting, and it was very weird at the end of the day because it didn't connect to the audience. It was so much about that, it became too much about their message, and you couldn't understand the message anymore.
That's the biggest problem.
I remember that show.
Remember that one?
I think that's a problem that we all deal with in that entertainment is so subjective. We all have our opinions about it. And when people that have a lot of opinions without a lot of experience want a big part of the process, want to be involved, it can really throw you off. And to Nicole's point, it becomes more about managing the client and the expectations than it does about the entertainment itself and the impact. And that's where you start to falter. Then it just becomes like just a slide. You're just a slippery slope.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
So can I tell you about my?
Yes, you've been saving it up.
I have because like what Paul said, I have never seen people leave a ballroom so fast. And this was at the end of an awards ceremony for a very large retailer, a national retailer. And in this case, the planner decided to book something on her own because it was affordable. And she brought in a dueling piano act, which is great. But she put them on a stage in front of 1,200 people. So it wasn't interactive. There was no way that the people in the back of the theater could even engage with the pianist. They were so far away. They started and people bolted. And like Paul saw 1,100 people walk out. I never saw people walk out of a ballroom so fast. They couldn't get out of there fast enough. And for me, it was a lesson in logistics, number one. And number two, in knowing your audience. The planner picked somebody because of cost. She didn't think about the demographics. She didn't think about the evening, the logistics, none of that. It was all about cost-driven, and it was a flop. The next year, they spent probably 6 times more money to ensure that it wouldn't be a flop.
Well, at least they learned their lesson very quickly.
Exactly.
We have an awesome question actually from Anthony Vade, who was actually on the show last week. So we're so happy to have you back, Anthony. And Anthony asks, at what stage, by having another Anthony here is really awesome, at what stage of the show / design or planning should entertainment enter the discussion? Anthony, you want to lead that one off since you guys have the same name?
Yes, I think right at the very beginning of the conversation, entertainment, if you're talking about messaging at all, goals, messages, entertainment is the strongest discipline to help you to share those messages. So I think it's got to be part of the conversation. Plus, we live in an experiential economy. We're looking for experiences. And yeah, I might be, I might feel like entertainment is the most important piece of an event because I deal in entertainment. Mm-hmm. But I'm sorry, a centerpiece is not going to help to impact an audience or give an audience a good feeling or help them to learn something about you or your product. So I think it has to be part of the discussion right at the very beginning, even if it isn't the meeting planner's focal point. Even if they feel like it's not so important, it should be part of the discussion. And because logistics are so relevant when it comes to entertainment, and it really does, logistics will limit you, you've got to make it a part of the conversation right at the top.
Absolutely. Awesome. Awesome. Paul, Nicole, anything you guys want to add? Or do you guys all agreeance?
I think we can all agree on that. I don't know, Paul, you?
No, absolutely, but there's another side to that too, and that's that it has to do with the window that you're working within. And I think all of us would agree that the planning window seems to be getting shorter every day, and that handicaps a planner because they don't feel like they have enough time to do the kinds of diligence you might do if you were working a year out. I mean, some of us are old enough to remember when we actually planned events a year in advance and more. Those days are long gone now, and there are still a few that we have that work a year out, but that's the exception instead of the rule. So, having if that would be a great piece of advice for planners, is if even for a half hour you pulled together your team just to listen to their ideas. You wouldn't be obligated. but at least you'd get everybody's perspective, from the lighting to the staging to the decorator to the entertainer. How do I achieve this goal? Listen to the ideas and then go back and synthesize it yourself and do your planning job and decide who you want at the table. But to not invite all of the parties early, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Awesome, awesome. So we only have a little bit of time left, and I want to get this question because it's an absolutely awesome question that we've gotten. And so try to keep it short, and then we'll jump into the last two questions that I want to share with you guys. But do you think there's any entertainment that is completely played out or overdone? It just needs to die. Let's like kill it now. Any piece of entertainment, and feel free to say DJs. So, Nicole, you want to start off? What kind of like entertainment do you think is just completely played out?
I don't, because I think entertainment is subjective to the audience. So if you have a crowd of 80-year-olds, they're going to love one thing that I might not like right now. If you have a crowd of 20-year-olds, they're going to like something that a 50-year-old might not like. So I don't think things are too played out. I think sometimes how we use them. Cirque du Soleil's got 20 shows in Vegas, maybe. You can't possibly fill that many theaters. So I think it's just more how to reinvent those existing art forms, but it depends on the audience. So it's hard to say one's played out in what we're doing. I think they go in waves and ebb and flows on what's cool and not at that time.
Awesome.
I want to agree with, I have to agree with Nicole because she's right on. But that said, I think Cirque is played out. I'm a bit tired of it trying to be something it's not. And I say that with all due respect because it's incredibly visual and genius, but I sometimes just feel left, and I don't feel the emotion I want to feel after I see a show. It's beautiful, but I don't feel anything.
Very good
I
point.
put it out there.
You put it a little more out there than I did.
But that's a trick question too, because part of Anthony's feelings, I think, is based on what the audience is used to. I would give the same speech for stage magicians, not close-up magicians. I think close-up magicians are probably the most incredible entertainment that is out there, because you're standing there with somebody face to face and he will blow you away if he's good. Stage magicians, once you have seen David Copperfield make the Statue of Liberty disappear, is Joe standing on the stage making the CEO come out of a box going to do anything? I think it's very hard for magicians to be relevant in that world. And so the same thing, what I would say, applies to Cirque. Once you've seen the level that Cirque du Soleil has risen to, the aerialist and these are all incredibly talented people, they're at a disadvantage right from the start. Because once you've seen what Cirque can do with an aerialist or a chiffon artist, how is somebody in a 20-foot ceiling with only a little bit of room to work, how are they going to blow people away? But then, as Nicole said, it depends on your audience. Where are you? Are you, in the are you in New York City where everybody thinks that they're 12 steps ahead of the world, or are you in Dubuque, Iowa, where maybe they don't get to see Circuit? And I'm sorry if there's any Dubuquers on the phone.
Don't let Tracy hear that.
No disrespect.
Awesome. Solid points. If it's okay, guys, if we go just a couple minutes late, we have a really, really great question I wanted to fit in. Lindsay Mays asked a really amazing question, which is, how can entertainment on a smaller scale of an event be incorporated outside of the general session or the main stage, because everyone's used to big acts being on main stage, and obviously that's kind of obvious things, but how can you incorporate into the small acts into the exhibit hall, to lunches, and how can you use entertainment to keep people engaged throughout the entire conference? You want to start us off, Nicole?
Sure. I think a lot of it can be interactive atmosphere entertainment. We do a lot of that too. I think all three of us here probably do. Whether it's having an entertainer, a magician, a painter, a character in a trade show booth to help get people into the booth. It could be a musician. It could be lots of various things. Cocktail receptions. You can have a girl, serving champagne from a big dress. So there's a lot of different ways to incorporate smaller entertainment just to get people excited and get some energy and photo ops up. That's kind of my thought. It's just a little bit more immersive that way.
I agree, and I think the trick to presenting that kind of entertainment is the surprise element. How you can present it in a way that catches people off guard and then engages them. Even something as simple as a parade, which can be deemed as overdone, can excite an audience, and it doesn't have to be a very large one. It could be, 3 or 4 drummers with this bombastic beat, moving throughout the trade show. Those kinds of things don't require a lot of money. It's just about timing and the element of surprise and, again, the logistics of it.
Awesome. Awesome. Paul?
I like their answers.
Fantastic. So good, so good. All right, awesome. So I have 2 more questions for you guys, and then I'm going to get you guys out of here. I know you guys are super busy. Paul's got to get off to produce an event in Las Vegas. Nicole's got to go through the costume department a little bit more and get some costumes. So my second to last question I have for you guys is if you could pick one tip, only one tip, or it could be 2, like 1.5 tips is okay. One tip for planners for 2016 to making their events better. It could be entertainment, AV, anything related. What would be the one tip you would give for planners for 2016? I'm going to toss this one to Paul on the other end.
Fight for as much time in advance as you can. The farther in advance you can plan an event, the more chances you have of finding those little things that you'll miss if it's short term. Time. We're losing time. Keep fighting for it to get it back. It doesn't have to be this way. You know the event's going to happen. Start earlier if you can. That would be my wish. There's
Awesome.
people out there that can help you, and they need time to do it.
I feel like that's a movie quote, like fight for time. It's like remember, like
It's
in
his
time
next
to do it. Awesome, awesome. Anthony, what would be your one tip?
I would say to respect the production writer that's presented to you and not necessarily feel like the requests are outrageous or unneeded. Usually there's a good reason for something that's on a writer. So I think looking at them with respect rather than with the pen, looking to take things out immediately is important. And that goes for any act. Even if an act doesn't have a writer, setting them up with the right production is key. It's really what, in some cases, helps an act project out to the entire audience. So it shouldn't be thought of as a stepchild or not important or too much money, which is what we often think AV is. It's really integral to the entertainment. So let's try to understand that a little better.
Awesome, awesome. By the way, AV is not too expensive. Just saying.
Well,
Sometimes.
sometimes.
When it's not endless. There you go.
When it's not.
Nicole, finish us out with
Which is ironic, if you think about it.
punny.
Punny, it's punny, yes.
I would say include your team. You look to your team for reasons. You have your entertainment person, your AV person. Include them in your planning. Respect their opinions. They'll generally tell you honestly what will work and their experiences and what hasn't worked. So just include them in that process.
Could I have one more? I have one more thought.
Yes, go for it.
And that is focus on the audience as well as the messaging and the logistics. Focus on the audience, not on your own particular tastes, not on the particular taste of somebody on your team or your superior, because at the end of the day, those are all formulas for failure. If you focus on the audience, on the demographics, then it's going to be hard to fail.
Awesome.
And if you ignore your boss's ideas, Anthony will hire you when you're looking for work.
That's right.
So good, so good. All right, awesome. So the last thing is I want to give you guys an opportunity to share any cool resources that you guys have. So whether it's you just read an awesome book, or you just found this great blog, or this great water bottle, or that you have this epic scuba mask that you just got to show with everyone. Tell us about like your cool favorite apps, resources, anything really. With everyone. So, Nicole, I know you got a bunch of great resources, and you're like the
Oh,
resource queen. So, tell us about like what resources do you have and cool things that you found recently.
oh boy. Well, I think one thing I really liked is Wham City Lights. It's a cell phone app that you can incorporate into meetings and events. There's a lot of, oh geez, this is a difficult one actually, but resource-wise, special events, ILEA, BizBash, any of the magazines and publications that specialize in what we do, I always look to online tools or they're actually hard copy magazines to get ideas and get inspired by. That's kind of where I go.
I love it. I
So
love it.
I'm not going to answer your question because I teach a class and I usually tell my class to go out and find a resource on their own. But this is why. I think it's really about keeping your eyes open. It's more about that than anything else. You can find anything anywhere anymore. It's really about how observant you are and how open you are to ideas. And just a quick for instance, I found this terrific drumming group downtown one night, wasn't looking for them because I was attuned to what was happening and I was led to them just because I was observing. So when you're in parks, when you're in museums, when you're in hotel lobbies, wherever you are, keep your eyes and ears open and you'll find resources.
Awesome. Awesome. Fantastic. Fantastic. I love it. You basically didn't answer my question and was still amazing. So thank you.
Thank you. That's my goal in life, you know. Be
Avoid
amazing.
Will's questions.
Exactly.
Well, Paul, hit us with your top resources.
America's Got Talent, the
Uh-huh.
Academy Awards show, the
Uh-huh.
CMAs, the Today Show. Any more people watch these shows. That's Ellen. The number of calls that I get from people that have seen acts on Ellen or on America's Got Talent. It's what's driving the world today because
Yes.
many clients want a touch of celebrity. They're afraid to try the unknown. You could submit this act 5 years in a row. They'll never give it a sniff, and the minute they appear on America's Got Talent, oh my God, I have to have this. So might as well just cut to the chase, watch the shows. That's where it's coming from anyways.
Amazing.
That's my resource.
I love it. I love it. Well, I mean, at least they can find out where to find it now, right? Awesome.
So
Awesome.
they don't have to go through Paul.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, who
Look
needs
what you did.
entertainment planners, right? I'm just kidding. My resource that I have for everyone is a really awesome app that Dahlia actually shared with me during Control-Alt-Delete when we were prepping for it. Is an app called Drift. And if you've ever been on a website and they have those little chat boxes at the bottom right that say, hey, ask me how I can help, and you can chat right with a representative. Basically, it's a free service you can install on your website. It integrates with everything. So you guys know I'm a huge HubSpot fan, so it integrates with HubSpot and Slack, which, as you guys know, I'm a huge Slack guy too. So Drift, check it out. Awesome chat software for your website. But I've already used these guys enough. I'm already over time because I just had to fit in so many awesome questions for you guys, and that's just our amazing show. So let's give a huge round of applause to our amazing guests, Paul, Anthony, and Paul. You guys are absolutely amazing, and thank you so much for being on the show today. Um, Everyone, be sure to tune in next week. As you guys know, we do this every single Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern. You'll get an email again letting you know that the show's coming up. Tune in next week because we're going to have even more amazing event icons for you to ask questions to and you to interview and get to meet. So, without further ado, we will see you guys all next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you, Will. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.